So in today's video, I want to discuss whether you need a magic circle or not when performing spells of a Solomonic nature, of the sort that I've been demonstrating on this channel. This tends to be a question that I get quite often. Do you need a magic circle? And the answer to that very simply is no. You don't need a magic circle when you're performing Solomonic spell work, whether it's candle work or some other kind of Solomonic spell that you find in the genre. And much of what I've been teaching on the channel has been drawn from that tradition and follows in that tradition, right? And the reason you don't need a magic circle when performing Solomonic candle spells of the sort that I've been teaching on the channel, or other kind of Solomonic spell work of the kind that you would see listed in books of secrets, which are the addendums you often find to the grimoires, that were spells. They're forms of folk magic often, but these spells tend to be powered by the spirits and the hierarchies found in the grimoire that the book of secret is attached to, or other kinds of spirits, whether they are fairies or perhaps more infernal spirits, that sort of things. But these spells tend to be much more folk magically oriented. They tend to use herbal materials and other kinds of sympathetic magical manipulations, and they don't happen within a magic circle because they are not full-scale evocations, which is to say ceremonies designed to call spirits to appear visibly in front of the circle or in a crystal or in some other kind of scrying medium. So there's a distinction there, right? And specifically in the spells that I teach on this channel, these candle spells are calling the influence of the spirits within to the intention of the spell, but they are not evoked to visible appearance. And for that reason, we wouldn't have a magic circle. We wouldn't necessarily go to the lengths that you would do with a full-scale ceremonial evocation that you might see when you're using the full key of Solomon, or other kinds of grimoires like the Heptameron, like the Grimoarium Verum, or which other kind of evocation system you might be using. Typically there would be a circle because you are conjuring spirits, but we're not conjuring spirits. We are doing spells. And even though we are calling on the power of the spirit to direct the spell work, to manifest the spell work, that's quite different to a full-scale evocation. And of course, as I mentioned, this isn't something of my own contrivance. This isn't something that I've just invented. If you look at the books of secrets, if you look, for instance, at the book of secret attached to the Grimoarium Verum, there are lists of spells in there that call on the spirits to influence individuals using wax puppets and other kinds of simple forms of sympathetic magic. But there's no ceremonial circle. There's no need to go to that length because it's merely a spell, right? Having said that, that's not to say that some sort of ritual preparation isn't necessary when doing the spell work, either of the nature that you would find in one of these books of secrets, or of the sort that you will have found on this channel, my Kabbalistic candle magic video, or my Kabbalistic mojo bag technique, or the black witch bottle. All these techniques that I've shown on the channel, I would highly recommend some sort of ritual purification, some sort of preparation before the rite to prepare yourself to do that spell work. And the simplest form of that would be a hyssop bath, along maybe with Psalm 51, the recitation of Psalm 51, over that spiritual bath, to cleanse yourself with that, and then to start the ceremony with a fresh set of clean clothes, making sure that you yourself are clean, and preferably I would recommend light colored clothes, or if you can, white clothes, or if you have some sort of ceremonial robe, that might be suitable, since it would also suggest some sort of a ritual purity that would be suitable for the spell. More than that, in terms of spiritual protection with the circle and those kinds of things, I don't think that is really necessary. And in terms of using that with these types of spells, I myself have never done that, and I've never had any significant problems. So I can attest to the fact that it is quite safe to do that. And the reason is because we're not conjuring these spirits to full visible appearance. We're merely invoking their influence into the spell itself, right? However, to help you with this, I've written a formula for a spiritual bath that you can use with hyssop. That combines an element of visualization and prayer and intonation of words of power to infuse the spiritual bath with power and potency, so that you are well prepared for the spell, and you can proceed with your spell work in full confidence that you have been purified and that you're ready to do the spell work in a suitable way. And of course, ritual purity is quite important in Solomonic work for several reasons. If we are to interact with the numinous, we want to be clean. We want to show respect to that realm by presenting ourselves as pure and clean, and that's one part of it. The second part of that is that to some extent ritual purity of the sort that we would get through by taking ritual baths or other acts of ritual purity, such as fasting, such as abstinence of sex on the day when you do a magical formula. All these kinds of abstentions and so on, and purifications, aren't just superstitious, moralistic kind of injunctions to give us some sort of burden or make it a chore for us. But there is a sound ritual logic behind it that we see throughout the ancient world, and we also see this in the African traditional religions and many other spirit-centric styles of traditional magic. We will see that there is often an emphasis on ritual purity when engaging with the spiritual world. That this is a very important part of what we do in order to prepare ourselves for contact with the numinous. And I suspect from my readings of the traditional materials and from studying various traditions that this is large in part has to do with the fact that a magician that is ritually pure and sanctified on some level will have more authority with the spirits, will carry more weight with the spirits, because implied within that is a sense of divinity. Implied with that is a sense of unification with the higher forces within the cosmos. And that unification through the act of cleansing and purification or fasting or sexual abstinence, by aligning ourselves with the higher aspects of the cosmos, we are somehow increasing our authority. We are somehow increasing our ability to influence events and show our strength in front of the spirits, you could say. And there's another aspect to this, which is to say, by cleansing ourselves beforehand suitably, we to some extent remove any barriers. We remove invading spiritual influences that might interfere with the work on some level, or even if these are just energetic influences or psychic influences in the sense of our own internal emotional climate. By doing this kind of cleansing, there is a kind of purging that allows us to release that stuff, and by doing that we can enter into the ritual, we can enter into that spell fresh, clear-minded, focused and powerful. And by entering the spell or the rite with that state of mind, we already have a force of power behind us, which will help us direct the forces that we invoke into the spell much more efficiently. So there you have it. I hope that gives you some food for thought about ritual purity and maybe the use of magical circles in spell work. I will link down below the PDF that I mentioned with the formula for the cleansing bath. I trust that you find that useful. As always, thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe or to like, and take care.